like me, your level of anticipation grows. I need to write more songs to improve my portfolio. I never know when I might meet an impresario. Let's have a solo. Vex me so. I need the answers so that I can get on with the show. And so I hope you'll tell me, 'cause I really need to know. The calendar remains unchecked. Is it FAWM yet? Good evening, good evening, good evening. It's not FAWM yet, but it's not long until FAWM. It's FAWM in 15 days. February album writing month starts in just over a fortnight, and it's all kicking off over at the FAWM website. So what's been going on? Well, let's go over to the FAWM website. If you don't know what FAWM is, if you're sitting here wondering, what on earth's FAWM? FAWM is February album writing month. It's a songwriting challenge. The idea is that you write 14 songs in the 28 days of February. That's one song every 2 days. And is that possible? I hear you asking. Oh, yes. Yeah, it's very possible. If you're a singer-songwriter, if you've toyed with the idea of making your own music, but have never really got round to it, February album writing month is the secret to giving your creativity a real kick up the pants. I have completely changed how I approach writing music and creating music and being a musician since I signed up for February album writing month 13 years ago. So hello to Wobby Wobbit, hello to Array of Emotions, hello to Ryako Music. Thanks for joining me. Housekeeping out the way first. Hello and thank you to Jason. Hello, Edit Engine has now followed me on Twitch. Hello to Prod5Trees who followed me on Twitch during last Thursday's show. I'm getting closer towards affiliate status. So if you're watching this and you've not followed me, but you're into making music, you want to hear some guy in his bedroom making stuff with synthesizers and guitars and stuff, you're in the right place. Please follow me. If you're watching the edited highlights of this on YouTube, then please subscribe to my YouTube channel. That would be lovely. And if you could click on the little like button at the bottom of the video, that would be even more lovely. Most of the people who are actually on this stream chat at the moment watching this know this already, because we're part of a community who follow the author William Gibson, and William Gibson's publishers set up a bulletin board on their website many years ago, which a lot of us all joined into. Hello, Dazed and Confused. Hello, Cody. Good to see you. How's the fibre? Hey? Now that's what I call an internet connection. Yeah, so William Gibson board, Ryako and Array of Emotions and myself and Scott have been in the William Gibson board for years, and it's a lovely community of like-minded people. We love William Gibson's work, obviously, because that's kind of why we joined the bulletin board. The people on the William Gibson board, or the WGB as it's known, are pretty much family. And when we lose a member of that family, it hits us hard. And that's what happened this week. Sadly, our friend Ian Rotsala, who has lurked in the Twitch streams and has lurked on YouTube, FAWM podcasts and other things, passed away on Wednesday at the ridiculously young age of 35. And we're kind of all processing it still at the moment. So what I thought I'd do today, because I'm still dealing with it. I know a lot of the folks on the WGB are still dealing with it. I ended up kind of trying to work through what I felt about it by writing a piece of music. So what I'm going to do to start off with is play the piece of music that I've written today. It's part of my Pay What You Want monthly learning project album that I'm doing on Bandcamp. But this one is a bit of an elegy more than anything else, I guess, for Ian. So this one is called Lambda CDM, and CDM for cosmologists is cold dark matter, because the lambda cold dark matter model of the universe is what we currently think is how things go on, and that's to do with the whole probability thing and the spontaneous grand pianos, which will be the name of the album, and Boltzmann brains, and very, very deep time. But yeah, so before we do anything else, I'm just going to play you this, and then we'll carry on from that point. So this is Lambda CDM. So that was Lambda Cold Dark Matter. And that one was for Ian Rutzala, who passed away on Wednesday. A friend I didn't know very well, although he is one of the people that I shared a cup of coffee and a damn fine slice of cherry pie back in the day in the Double R Diner in South Bend in Washington State, known to most of you as the diner in Twin Peaks. And Ian was quite a Twin Peaks fan. I think when we actually showed up in the town, he was spotting locations faster than I was, because he was a very bright guy, profoundly autistic, which made him a little bit challenging from time to time to get on with. And as a result, he quite often underrated his own intellectual capacity and his ability to do stuff. Hello, Jason. Edit Engine is with us. Ian was great. A real loss. It really was. And yeah, so that piece of music is for Ian, and the guitar solo, which was just the Parker Fly and Ebo. I knew I was only going to be able to do it once, so that was first take, and didn't rehearse it or anything, just hit record and went for it. So yeah, Array of Emotion says, I'm glad I got to meet him at least the one time. Yeah, and I think he will be someone who will be fondly remembered, although sadly it would be nicer if he was around to do the remembering with us. Ryako Music says he and I shared cat videos. Dazed and Confused says, that guitar was my favourite bit. Well done. Thank you. Yeah, bit different, bit quiet, bit somber, bit sad, but that's kind of been the mood over the last few days. And Wobby and Cody are probably wondering, who are these other people who have arrived? And they are William Gibson board people. We had a bit of an impromptu Zoom chat yesterday, and Lily and Deb had organised it in advance. Just a few of us Zooming with a cup of tea and a biscuit and having a chat. And then we got the news about Ian, and it all changed into a WGB get together. The first since this time last year, when Mr. Gibson himself launched his latest novel, and we all, well, quite a few of us, met up in London in real life and in Bristol in real life. And yeah, that was kind of the last time we all saw each other. And it was just really nice to hang out on Zoom with some familiar faces. I get so much from doing these live streams on Thursday nights and Sunday nights and being able to share stuff with people. And as a result, yesterday we had a lot of trouble trying to organise this with Twitter, because if you have offline sort of private conversations on Twitter, there's a very, very low limit into the number of people that you can invite. Good evening, Belinda, and I hope you're comfortable at home after you joined us yesterday from a hospital bed. So good to see you, Noir. Yeah, I got frustrated with the way Twitter was making it very difficult to organise just social meeting online stuff. So I've set up a Slack channel for the WGB, and I thought I'd probably get about half a dozen of the people involved on Slack, and I created the workspace at about 10 o'clock last night. And we are now closing on 40 people in it. It is astonishing. It just took off. And I have spent most of the day on Twitter and Twitch and email and Facebook and whatever social media I can find, trying to find folks from the old WGB, because Gibson's publisher pulled the plug on the board. So Scott's other half, Deb, runs the unofficial WGB, but quite a few of the old guard come in very, very occasionally on that site. So if you're watching and you want in, then just give me a shout on Twitch or Twitter or Facebook, or just general email. I mean, I'm headfirstonly@gmail.com if you want to email me. That's totally cool. And I'll send you an invite. So yeah, on with the music. It's 15 days until February album writing month starts again. So I've said February album writing month, you have to write 14 songs in 28 days, because you can't wait for inspiration. You have to light after it with a club. And if you don't get it, you will at least end up with something that resembles it, as Jack London said. So who are FAWM? Well, the guy who started it off and does all the hacking and everything else is Bear Settles. Eric and Jen Distad do all the merch and the subbing and the Rock Hands distribution. More on that in a second. And Art helps out with the coding. And they're all lovely people. There are a number of mods. There's Helen's Evil Twin. There's Nancy Ross. There's Robbie McKenzie. There's Duct Tape Guy. There's Tim Fatchen over in Australia. And there's Fireball. And there's some dude called Headfirst Only, who has been suspending accounts this afternoon. I have no idea what goes on in people's minds, but apparently, well, Helen reckons it's something to do with search engine optimization, in that if you have your site referred to by a lot of other websites, it helps your SEO figures. The only trouble is February album writing month's website has now become a hotbed of users signing up for, well, I suspended one this afternoon that was a German swimming pool installer. We've also had a lot of sign-ups, apparently from Indonesian pest control companies. Try and find the link between those and making 14 songs in 28 days. I'm struggling a bit. Edit engines just burst out laughing. Yeah, it's insane, but that's the way it goes. These people basically run the show, you know, just out of the goodness of their own hearts. So they do ask for donations. So if you do take part in February album writing month, please consider making a donation. If you donate $25, you get file hosting, so you can basically store all your new songs on the February album writing month website, and they embed in the site perfectly. And there's an HTML5 player, so you'll actually have a little button and you can get your songs to play from within the website themselves. There is also the £10 FAWM Star basic donation, and that entitles you, as it says there on the webpage, you get a set of rock hands alongside your handle. Wobby Wobbit says, yep, waiting for my rock hands. Excellent. There is also merch somewhere there. Where's the merch gone? There is a link. There it is. It's a huge red button that is staring me in the face, and I'm just too keyed up at the moment to see it. So if we click on the merch store, you can get t-shirts. You can get a Rock Hands t-shirt. You can get a FAWM hoodie, which is very nice. And I have both the Rock Hand t-shirt and the FAWM hoodie. I've also got one of the old FAWM.org t-shirts kicking around somewhere. They will all be making an appearance next month, once February album writing month gets underway for serious songwriting fun. You can buy an egg shaker. I quite fancy an egg shaker, actually. I haven't got a shaker. That's one of the few pieces of instrumentation in this room that I have somehow not managed to acquire yet. I do have a kazoo, but I do not have a shaker. And you remember on Thursday I was talking about cowbells and the fact that Gear for Music, which is a UK music supplier, is selling cowbell stands. So you get a collection of cowbells on a stand to do your hashtag cowcore contribution to the musical challenges in FAWM this February. I think we've set a bit of a trend, you know, the whole cowbell thing. The rather wonderful Guy Mitchellmore, who runs ThinkSpace. What was his latest special that he did 2 days ago? A half-hour show dedicated to cowbells. It's the ThinkSpace Cowbell Special. So I encourage you to go over there and click the like button. And if you're not subscribed to Guy's channel already, please do, because he's wonderful. You will never see a more enthusiastic figure on YouTube. So it's the Guy Mitchellmore is the name of the channel, but it's ThinkSpace Education. Go over, find him on YouTube, subscribe the hell out of his channel, because he is brilliant and we all need cowbells. While I'm on the subject of YouTube, I'm going to point you in the direction of another friend of mine who I've known for a while now, who is called Anthony Garone. And Anthony has a channel called Make Weird Music. Now, if you're doing music, or if you're creative, or you just want to see people who are totally obsessed with the practice and the praxis of making music, then do subscribe to Anthony's Make Weird Music channel. On Friday night, he had a conversation with two of my favourite guitarists, Vernon Reid, who was in Living Colour and now forges a very, very unique path. Can you be very unique? No. He forges a unique path in guitar sonics. And he was in conversation with David Torn, the legendary guitarist whose CV is both jaw-dropping and intimidating. So all of the albums, apart from The Next Day, I believe, that David Bowie did in the 21st Century, David plays guitar on. So, you know, the really glitchy, weird, what I thought was a synthesizer at the beginning of Sunday on the opening track on Heathen, that's David Torn. And watching David and Vernon just talk, because they're friends, they hadn't seen each other because of lockdown for months. It was just a delight to watch that show. And it's there on the YouTube channel. Do watch it. It's just beautiful. You know how much of a Devin Townsend fan I am. So there you go. There's a 3/4 hour show which is Devin Townsend talking about the creative process as a way of firing yourself up for taking part in February album writing month this year. Check that video out. And it's just a joy, because Devin's just a joy. So I highly recommend that. If you're doing February album writing month, go buy yourself some merch. And most importantly, get your rock hands and make a donation to support the site. And as you can see there, 10% of the money raised through donations goes to charity. So in previous years, they've supported, well, you can see the list there. there's some very, very worthy causes that they're supporting. So Ryako Music says, what kind of cowbell is the best? You want something fairly substantial, because the whole point of a cowbell is that you beat the crap out of it. Cowbells, one has to warn you, are very, very loud. When I bought mine, I thought, oh yeah, this good grief, immediately put the headphones on and turn the microphone in the other direction. Yeah, they're not subtle instruments. Edit Engine says, I need more cowbell, baby. Yeah, I did just so many lines from that sketch. And Christopher Walken doing comedy. I mean, the man needs to do more comedy, because he is very good at it, and he needs to do more dance videos. So, weapon of choice. Anybody remember that? Okay, so that's got the enthusing about various things on the web out of the way. It's got the eulogy out of the way, because weird week. What else has been going on? Well, the BBC Symphony Orchestra core update dropped through, and I noticed several of you on here were saying, on the chat, was saying, well, Scott was saying, I used to have a gong, and I noticed something this week, that if I just add a MIDI track to my track, what I have here, because one of the things that I'm doing these days is that I now have more than one orchestra who play on my tracks. And one of the orchestras I have is the BBC Symphony Orchestra. So if you go to Spitfire Audio and go to the BBC Spitfire Audio webpage about the BBC Symphony Orchestra, they do a Discover package of the BBC Symphony Orchestra, which is a VST plugin for your digital audio workstation. Basically gives you the whole of the BBC Symphony Orchestra to play with in your DAW. And I started with the Discover package, got so enthused by it that they were doing a deal. So I upgraded to the core package, which is what this window is here. If I switch back to the Discover package, however, I'll show you what you can get for nothing. Yes, I said nothing. You can have a free symphony orchestra playing on your music that you are writing for February Album Writing Month next month. And that's what it looks like. So you get all the different sections of the orchestra. The red stuff's the brass, the green stuff's the strings. So you've got the violins too, violas, celli and basses. You've got all the woodwinds in the blue. So you've got piccolos, flutes, oboes, clarinets and bassoons. And then, because Edit Engine was saying, where would one even purchase a gong? Well, you can get one for nothing, because there's a percussion section in the Spitfire Audio. So if you go to, in fact, actually, I think it's somewhere in here. Or has it disappeared? I think it might have disappeared, It's not there, is it? There used to be a gong and various other bits and pieces, but I think it may have been removed. If I switch back to core, there are all sorts of strange pieces of percussion equipment that you can pick. So I've got the timpani here. So if I wheel out my special keyboard, you got kettle drums. What else have we got? We've got a lot of other stuff. We've got hits. What are hits? Ah, there's where the gong is. Somewhere. I knew it was there somewhere. We haven't lost the gong, Ryako music. You can sleep soundly. It's the B below middle C. Now that's really doing it for me. But there's a whole bunch of other stuff as well. What else have we got? Crotals. I love those. Vibes. Nice. And Wobby spotted that and is now laughing. For those of you who weren't raised with British television, there was an art show presented by a lovely chap who's no longer with us called Tony Hart about art. And it was one of the few children's shows that was specially designed to be accessible to children who are deaf. So one of the presenters, Pat Kiesel, would present in sign language, but kids would send in their art. And every week there would be a section of the show on Vision On, which was called The Gallery. And that piece of music is a single called Left Bank 2 by the Novel Tones. And that was the piece of music that played in the gallery every week. And it is just permanently imprinted on my brain. So that's vibraphone. What else have we got? Got, of course, Tubular Bells. And glockenspiel. There's also a very, very nice Celeste even in the Discover version. Go to the Spitfire Audio site. You fill out a questionnaire. It asks you things like, do you make music? Or what sort of music do you like? So it's not exactly intrusive questions. You answer the questions, click submit, and then you download the Spitfire Audio app. And then 2 weeks later, when you fire up the Spitfire Audio app, it will say you own the BBC Symphony Orchestra Discover package. And you can start making compositions with an entire symphony orchestra. And believe me, I installed it at the beginning of May, June last year. It's completely changed what I'm doing. All this stuff that I did, like the track I just played you, I would not have done a track like that prior to installing the BBC Symphony Orchestra. But wait, there's more, because the Spitfire Audio app actually has another function on it, and that is to deal with a bunch of software which is called Labs, which is literally their experimental division. And they make all these sort of experimental instruments available to you for free. And there are rather a lot of them. They're great to play with. There's also the trumpet fields is very, very, very silly. So here we go. Great for chords. You might think, well, who the hell would use that? Well, I've used it. work quite well for me. But there are some really nice, in inverted commas, proper instruments. So there's a beautifully sampled lap steel guitar. Rev Emotion says wasps. Yeah, indeed. So this dial is reverb. Dial the reverb up as much as you can. If you've got Valhalla's supermassive free VST reverb, whack that up as well and just enjoy the lusciousness. Hello, Jules. Guppy Wigber. Guppy Wigber says, I think it's used a lot in film noirs. Yeah, it would work. Yeah, I can see that. That would work. Scott, who has, and I've seen Scott's monophonic synthesizer collection, just asks, chords? Hey, come on. If Wendy Carlos could write or record complete arrangements of Bach using one monophonic synthesizer, of course you can do chords. It's just a question of rewinding and putting another track on. So, highly recommend grabbing hold of the Spitfire Audio app, fire it up, install all of the things. There are lots and lots and lots of free stuff that you can get, and some of it is just so the North Circular Road in London, sampled. So it's mainly car horns, but it's been beautifully treated. Or even, just hop on a tube train. Mind the doors. God, I miss London. I really do. Sorry, I'm away now, so I'll close that down. Mind the Gap too. Yeah, there is, and my friend Robin does a podcast on the Cosmic Shambles Network it's called, oh God, what's it called? He's got so many damn podcasts these days, I can't keep up. But it's about film. And the latest episode of his film podcast is about the 1972 horror movie starring Donald Pleasence and Christopher Lee, which is called, in this country, it's called Deathline. It may, I think I'm going to have to, we'll Google it. Let's Google it. But it's basically about a family of cannibals who got walled in to an abandoned tube tunnel in the last century, and the last surviving member is basically eating people in tube stations, and Donald Pleasence is called in by Christopher Lee, who is in MI5 and has to solve the crime. And because they've sort of reverted to this sort of cannibalistic, strange existence, they have no language, and the only phrase that the sort of protagonist can utter that is intelligible is "mind the doors." So it is just such raw meat in the US because, of course, raw meat. Robin's latest episode of his podcast is about it. The interesting thing is that Christopher Lee and Donald Pleasence, although they have scenes together, were never in the same room at the same time, because the height difference was such a challenge, because Christopher Lee was what, about 6'7", and Donald Pleasance wasn't. And Christopher Lee's performance, because he's not acting to anybody, he's just in the room being told what to do, gives the most bizarre performance I've ever seen him do. And at one point is actually poking an umbrella into the camera. It's extraordinary. It's well worth tracking out. I actually have the DVD of that film, and it's all Robin's fault, because he has an enthusiasm for films which matches my enthusiasms for doing these shows. So yeah, and I think that is quite worthy of a squirrel caption, don't you think? So whenever I get lost on a diversion on these things, squirrel, because it's a reference to a movie. Of course, it's the dogs in Up, the Pixar movie, who get distracted, and it's like squirrel. So anyway, I switched to the main camera because I played you one piece of music that I've done today. I also went back. Do you remember the track I played you on Thursday where I said, this is kind of experimental and it doesn't really resolve? Oh boy. I went back to it the next day and sat down and thought, okay, I've painted myself into a corner here, haven't I? It's all very well being nice and enthusiastic and experimental, and it's all very well saying, well, rules are made to be broken and chord progressions, you know, who cares what chord you go to next, or whether you resolve to the home key that you started off on, or, you know, you just stop. Yeah, there's a reason why those are conventions that are kind of in place, and that is that it becomes really, really, really hard to come up with something melodic over a thing that's just meandering left, right and centre and changing direction on a whim. So I went back to the track, which was called Parity Violation. And yeah, we're still back to, you know, the arrow of time, and yeah, let's not go into that at the moment. Dazed and Confused says, haha, I've been sidetracked myself digging through Spitfire's freebies again. Good man. Yeah, they're worth getting. There are more Spitfire audio instruments on this. They do a very nice, reasonably priced set of small VST instruments, which are called their Originals series, and they go for $29 or €29 or 29 quid. And I've got, I think, 2 or 3 of them now, and there is a lot of Spitfire's intimate strings on this track. So it's loaded now, so I can actually show it you. So yeah, I kind of kept the basic idea of what I played you on Thursday, but then you see, top tip, kids, structure your tracks so you know where the verse and the chorus and the pre-chorus, or in my case the sections are, because it makes it very easy to organize stuff and queue up stuff and drop stuff in, and it also can really help you come up with a coherent structure for your arrangement. So you might start with the piano, as this one does, and have a nice little very low-key synth pad in it, and then as you go from section to section, you can add and remove different instruments as you see fit. And that's kind of the way that compositions have always gone, and I love the slow build where you start off with a guitar and then you bring the drums in and the bass, and then by the time you've finished, you've got a marching band wandering through the conservatory. And I've been there and I've done that. I love it, and it's great fun, and I always do at least one song with that kind of approach. every February album writing month and every 50/90, and I'm sure I will be doing it here again. But as you can see, there are bits that come in, there are bits that just do a little bit of an embellishment and then go away again. And instead of waffling on about what this sounds like, I'm just gonna play at you. So this is version 2, where I basically just binned everything else and started again from scratch. This is version 2 of Parity Violation. So that was Parity Violation version 2. And yes, so as Ryako said, why don't you try some percussion on that? So I added some timpani, and there are also some, I think, are they tams or cymbals? I can't remember which one I went for at the end. Neither. They're piatti, which are these things. If I can find the right notes to play. So you get various choked, well, they're kind of cymbally, and then there's one that rings, which is rather nice. And then a short roll. Very short. I can't hear anything happening there at all. But never mind. So yeah, I'm kind of glad I junked the original version of it. It definitely needed more of a conventional structure, I think. And I had fun doing the guitar solo. It took me a while to figure out what I was going to do with it. But yeah, I'll take that as a win. I think that one worked for me. And Dazed and Confused says, yeah, I like that. A lot stuttery and fluttery. Yeah, and reason for that is because I'm a prog rocker at heart, and prog, apart from having almost compulsory instruments like the mellotron in that, like the Selena string machine, it's all about the weird time signatures. So this is in 7/8, which gives it that kind of stuttery, am I restarting, where's one feel to it. And as with the last time I played it to you, my comment was, the big challenge in prog is that you write something in an odd time signature and then you make it so nobody notices. That they just go, oh yeah, this is quite good, because it's only the really, really sad cases, the musos, who are at the back of the audience going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And yeah, I actually once got called out at a Cayley, because one of the musicians afterwards, when we were doing the dancing, and they teach us the dancing, and then you had to go and do various things and everything like that, and I was counting while I was doing it, and the fiddle player said, could see you counting, you're a musician, aren't you? I went, yeah. Scott says, I prefer odd number time signatures for that same reason. Yeah, me too. Although some are easier than others. I saw a really interesting interview with Gavin Harrison, who was the drummer in Porcupine Tree and also has done stuff with O5 Rick and is now in King Crimson. And he always said that, or maybe it was Gary Husband who said that he didn't like playing in 5/8 because there wasn't enough of the pattern there for it to develop its own groove. So he always preferred 7/8 to 5/8, which is kind of interesting, because the only dude who really got 5/8 to go places that nobody else had ever done before was, of course, the mighty Dave Brubeck with Take 5. If you've not got a copy of his, I think it's Experiments with Pops or Experiments with Time, the album that has Take 5 on it, 5/4 is not the only weird time signature on that album. It was basically Dave Brubeck, who was an astonishing jazz pianist, showing off and just going, all you kids with your popular music in 4/4. Just stand back and let the grown-ups show you how it's done. And that album is still astonishing now, and it's almost as old as I am. Ryaka Music says, I love 3/4, but tend to use 4/4 like a basic pitch. Well, I think 4/4 is, yeah. If you're learning songwriting, then make life easy for yourself and stick to either 4/4 or 3/4. 3/4 is glorious. 3/4 is so. The first number, the number at the top of a time signature, if you don't know this stuff, the number at the top of the time signature, 3, is the number of beats in a bar. And a bar, in the case of something like this door, is the gap in between those vertical lines. So you can see up at the top, it's actually numbering the bars. So I have a 1 bar count in before I start, and then from the start of bar 2 to the end of bar 2, you can see, because I'm doing 7/8, there are 7 faint lines in between each of the bars, and the light and dark shading that's a whole bar. So the number in the top of a time signature, like the 7/8 or 3/4, is the number of beats to the bar. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. The number underneath the horizontal line, the second number in the time signature, is the length of the notes. So the individual note that the 1 is. So normally it's either a 4 or an 8. And so, without going into whether they're quarter notes or half notes or whole notes or quavers or semi-quavers or whatever you want to call them, basically if it's 3/4, it's going to be fairly slow. So a 4 is a longer note. It's a quarter of a whole note, I think. I could have got that wrong. I need to look these things up before I start blathering on about them. But it's basically slow. So it's 3/4 is 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So 7/4 would be at the same speed. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. But I'm doing 7/8. And because 8 is twice as big a number as 4, it means you go twice as fast. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And you can have 7/16, which would be twice as fast again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You get where it goes. So, yeah, when you're starting out, you don't want to do stuff too fast because you've got to concentrate on what you're doing. And frankly, some of us still have to concentrate very heavily on what they're doing and cannot sing and play guitar at the same time and can barely sing and play piano at the same time. And I've been playing piano since I was 5. You'd think I'd have improved by now, but no. So the whole point of doing a song is getting it to get the listener's feet tapping. And that is why sometimes doors can shoot you in the foot, literally. Well, not literally, but kind of literally, because rather than your foot tapping, they don't. And there's a little button here on my digital audio workstation here. If I click this, it goes into something. It says drop clips or grooves here, because the whole thing with synth rock and synth pop in the 1980s was that you had various drum machines and synthesizers like the JX3P behind me. It would only play on the grid. It would only play on the beat, and the drums would only sound on the beat. And that's why drum machines sound weird if you're used to listening to a human drummer, because human drummers are able to move around those grid lines. So I have a drum package that I use on a lot of my tracks called Superior Drummer, and the Superior Drummer drum patterns that you can drop onto your DAW are recorded from a real drummer hitting a real drum kit that has pads on it that are recording the pressure and the timing of his hits. So those hits don't sit on the grid, and it's that human feel that is what gets your foot tapping when you're hearing something and it's a little bit behind the beat or it's a little bit in front of the beat. And people talk about the pocket and having a feel for, do you push the beat or do you lag behind it? And that takes practice, and what you need is one of these to practice with, which is just a little metronome. And I mean, I'm sad because I'm all about the gear. I have two. So, I mean, they're cheap as chips, and you can pick how many beats to the bar you want. So that was 4 beats to the bar. Here's 5. Or it only goes up to 7. So it will do 7, 8. Here we go. But practicing to one of those really helps you to understand where the beat is, and it gets to the point where you start recognizing when a piece of music is on the beat, or you might start noticing when somebody's not on the beat. And when you get to Riako's standard, I've recorded stuff in here and played it back, and she's going, latency's off on that. And the bass that I'd recorded on one track was about 5 milliseconds behind where it should have been on the grid, and she could hear it. So much respect. Edge Attention says, 2 metronomes, you have a problem, sir. You think that's a problem? Have you seen this room? Let me show you my room. Let me show it you. So those are that's some of the synth collection. The MIDI controller here for the piano. So and there is, because I've got all the processing running on this, there is so much latency that I can literally play a note and then shut the piano away again before it sounds in the DAW, which makes life quite difficult. So that's why I don't do any of the processing and put things like neutron and ozone and maximizers and compression and everything else on until I'm doing the final mix. Which can be problematic because it does occasionally mean that I go, oh, that doesn't work. And I have to go back and start it all over again. Edge Attention says, that is awesome. I am not a musician, but I'm fascinated by works. Yeah, this place never used to look like this. So last October, this side of the room from about here was a bed. It was one of these high-level bunk beds, and I don't know if you were here for the opening credits, but all the opening credits were basically filmed with me working at a desk that was underneath the bunk bed, which meant that every time I forgot what I was doing and stood up to go and get myself a cup of tea, I'd cut my head open on the bed. And October this year, it finally got to the point where I asked myself, if I don't get this room set up to be the recording studio that I've dreamed about it being for 2 decades, then when am I ever going to do it? So when 5090, the songwriting challenge that I do every summer that runs from the July the 4th till October the 1st, which is 90 days. So you have to write 50 songs in the 90 days between July the 4th and October the 1st. And yes, it is possible to do. I've done it every year now for 8 years. Great fun. Taught me a hell of a lot about songwriting, which is kind of why I started doing these, because I wanted people not to struggle like I did in terms of just learning what makes a song and what works and what doesn't work. So this summer I ordered myself a proper studio desk, and this is it, complete with the pull out drawer for my MIDI controller. There's a nice little power supply built into it down here, so my computer is actually in its own little 19-inch rack mount casing. All my monitors now are no longer under the bed, and it's funny what a difference not having a mattress 6 inches above your near field monitors, which are these things. If I just turn to yet another camera, so here we go, this is tripod cam. So those monitors there, it's amazing how much better they sound when they haven't got a mattress basically sitting on top of them, absorbing all the frequencies, not just the bass frequencies. Since I got rid of the bed, since I put them where they should be, they're at ear level for me, so I can now listen to stuff, and my mixes have got better as a result. So don't skimp on your recordings. I know most people have. Rocklow says, awesome guitars. Thank you. See, that's just some of them. I have another bunch down here, and my trusty Parker down here. But thank you. Yeah, if you've got a space, even if it's just, part of your bedroom, getting that space as close as you can to somewhere that you want to be in will make a tremendous difference to your songwriting, will make a tremendous difference to your creativity. I suffered from claustrophobia after doing the recordings under the bed, back in the summer, because I'd hit myself on the head. And come on, when you've got a hairstyle like mine, you don't have anything to soften the blow when you stand up and encounter a steel bed frame. It hurts. And that's kind of, that was at the back of my mind when I've been sitting down here to work in the studio. And since I got rid of the bed, put it on free cycle, so that's now somebody else's problem and somebody else's head injuries. Just the difference in walking in here and just seeing this desk and everything laid out ergonomically and not cramped and not claustrophobic and ready to go. If you can get a space together that is like that, that is ready to go when you have the time to sit down and do a song or write something or play something, it just completely changes how your music will sound in strange psychological ways. Trust me on this, because Mel said to me a couple of months ago on this stream, you've leveled up this year, and part of it is through changing the sort of music that I'm creating. So, we've got the Spitfire Audio original strings. There's the Spitfire Audio Abbey Road 1. There's a whole bunch of stuff there, but it all started with the free BBC Symphony Orchestra Discover package of just saying you can now write a piece for violin and a piece for cello and a piece for an oboe in your compositions, and it ain't going to cost you anything more than the outfit you've already got. If you've got a DAW that will load VSTs, then you're golden. So that Spitfire Audio app, download it, get the Labs plugins, which are the free virtual instruments. They're wonderful. Go to the Spitfire Audio site, fill out the questionnaire for the Discover package, and 2 weeks later, the Spitfire Audio app will have an entire symphony orchestra there, sitting on your computer, waiting for you to use it and waiting for you to be the conductor and the composer and say, yes, I'd like some French horns in the verse, please. And man, that is so weird. I mean, teenage me, who used to just sit in his bedroom and play LPs of prog rock all evening, would just have been blown away if, time traveling me and say, okay, one day, kid, you're going to be able to write stuff like you're listening to now, but you'll be doing it from your bedroom. Forget going to, what was it, Mustique, or where was the Air Studios in the Caribbean that Sir George Martin set up. It just blows my mind that I'm doing what I'm doing here, that I'm able to do what I'm doing in here. I've been playing music since I was a kid. I've been a guitarist now for 40 years. So all this stuff in here is 40 years of accumulated stuff. I never get rid of anything. The fretless bass there on the wall, I bought at a jumble sale in Paddington, and it was about 40 quid because the guy who'd owned it before me had decided that he didn't actually want a bass with frets on it. He'd have one of these newfangled fretless basses. So he took a pair of pliers to an Ibanez Blazer, pulled all the frets out, and then got polyfiller, which is, masonry filler, and basically smeared it over the holes he dug in the fingerboard where the frets had been, and sort of wiped it all off. So I picked the guitar up for about 40 quid and took it to Roger Giffin, who's a luthier who at the time had a workshop in one of the arches under Kew Bridge in London. And a couple of friends had recommended him to me as saying, he'll save that guitar. And he absolutely did. Put a beautiful fretless ebony fingerboard on it, replaced the bridge, did a whole lot of other stuff to it. And I will never forget dropping the guitar off for him to do the work, because we'd spoken on the phone and he knew what I wanted. And I went in, I talked it through, and he goes, yeah, okay, just pop it down there on the floor next to that other guitar case or another bass case. So I put my guitar case down, and it was just a cheap, Rose Morris flight case that I think cost me about 20 quid. And I had a look at the leather-bound bass guitar case that I just put my fretless bass next to on the floor. And underneath the very ornate and very, very swish handle, there was a little brass nameplate. And the nameplate just said J. Entwistle. And it's like, okay, I think I might actually be sort of encroaching in more professional territory than I had anticipated. Because, John Entwistle was the other customer that Roger had seen the day that I dropped my guitar off, and I never got to meet the guy, and I came that close. And so the Who's bass player, hey ho, Scott says, also plus 1 million to what Chris is saying. And if Under the Bed isn't your studio name, it should be. It kind of was. It kind of was for a while. I do occasionally put physical CDs together, and I think for a while I just had CDs that said recorded under the bed or recorded at under the bed, which kind of didn't make grammatical sense, so I just ended up with just recorded under the bed. But yeah, in terms of bass playing, I have one final track to play for you today, so I'm going to go back to main camera because of course it takes, because I have, although I have quite a fast machine, it's using all my old machines hard disk drives, and those aren't that fast, so pulling all those instrument libraries off a hard disk takes a considerable amount of time. So I started loading the new set on Ableton when I just said about all this and switched screens. It is still displaying. Oh no, there we go. It's now pretty much built the screen for the other piece of music that I'm going to play you tonight. Now, I played you this one before, but I've tweaked it a lot, and we've been talking about bass playing, and there is an awful lot of bass playing on this one, and I'm going to go back to main camera because one of the other instruments that I've got in here, because I like weird instruments. So we've talked on this stream in the past about the Chapman Stick. So there isn't Chapman Stick on this track, but what I used on this track, this only has one less string than the stick does. Riaka Music says you should have offered a bribe for a chance meeting. You know, that never even occurred to me. It absolutely never even occurred to me. So this is it was kind of a gent machine was how it was marketed when they made it. They don't make this particular model anymore, but both the guitarists in Meshuggah were photographed with their copies of one of these, and so I thought, I want one of those. So I tried one out in the local guitar shop in Bristol, and it was like, yeah, this is my sort of thing, because it's the top 6 strings are the same tuning as a normal guitar, but at the bottom you've got C sharp, F sharp, and B, and then E, A, D, G, B, E as a normal guitar. And I thought, oh yeah, I can do gent and metal. Yeah, right. I've ended up using it as a very, very fancy bass guitar. And I have to say, it actually sounds very, very good as a fancy bass guitar. So I did a mix that I played you a while ago of this track, and all the fancy bass guitar was buried at the back of the mix. I was listening to it on headphones, and I thought, that really ought to have the bass a bit further forward in the mix. So I've remixed it, and this track is track 5 on my Spontaneous Grand Pianos album, which will be available for download on headfirstonly.bandcamp.com when I finish doing it. And at the moment I'm putting out about an album a month. They're all going to be free, i.e. pay what you want, on Bandcamp. There are 2 in that category on Bandcamp already. The third one should be available before February album writing month starts. And it will be called Spontaneous Grand Pianos. And it's all about the fact that if you have an almost infinite amount of time in the future, then the randomness of particles popping into and out of existence in the universe, in whatever combination they might do so, eventually might suddenly, somewhere in the dim and distant future, see a grand piano spontaneously popping into existence. And I just loved the idea of that so much. I thought, right, that's got to be the name of the album. But it does require extraordinarily large amounts of time. I mean, amounts of time beyond the heat death of the end of the universe for that to happen. But it could, because if it's not infinitely improbable and you have sufficient amounts of probability, then it's going to happen. So this is deep time, and this is me on piano again, because all the tracks have piano, me on the RG9 BK 9-string guitar from Ibanez, and a whole bunch of more synths. And this is what it sounds like. So that was Deep Time. So Dazed and Confused was saying, I can hear some screaming Gilmour-style guitar on this. Not saying it needs it. I often enjoy music the most when in my head I'm making up my own. Haha. As I said, I was very tempted. But Strings and Things in Shoreham, not Worthing, not Brighton, Shoreham. They got me a replacement Ocean Machine, which arrived Thursday. And so now I have my old guitar rig back as it used to be, although I still have to figure out how I'm going to get the presets from the dead Ocean Machine that is in that box into the living Ocean Machine, which is now in my guitar effects chain at the bottom here. But thanks for all the nice things that people are saying about that particular track. And it's interesting because up until listening to it on headphones a couple of days ago, I thought I'd finished it. And then I listened to it on headphones and go, no, I can do better than that. And Ryako Music says, it's a lot better and you did a good job. And thank you. I really like that. Took a lot of the top end of guitar off, changed the way the compression worked, actually got rid of one compressor and just used Neutron's own on it. And I'll take that. Quite happy with that one. Dazed and Confused says, oh, that's above my pay grade, so should be able to do with some chip swapping, perhaps. Yeah, I think it still boots up. So I think what I am literally just going to have to be is a really sad git and just have the two of them powered up on this desk, and the presets that I really want to copy over from one to the other, I'm literally going to have to call up the preset on the dead one and see which variants, because I mean, show you the thing. It is a little bit of a beast, to say the least. So let's go over to Tripod Cam, shall we? Because that's what Tripod Cam is for. So it's not powered up, but so the Ocean Machine is a reverb and echo pedal that is produced by Moore to the specifications of a certain Mr. Devin Townsend. So that's it. So you've got effectively 4 controls there for the reverb, 4 controls there for Echo Machine number 1, and 4 controls there for Echo Machine number 2. And if you look at the settings, I don't know if you can see those, but you can see there are the focus on this is pants, isn't it? This is the trouble when you can only afford to buy like 20 quid webcams. They're not particularly good. So the reverbs you get reading clockwise: room, hall, plate, distorted verb, FL verb, filter, reverse, spring, and modulated reverb. So it does all the nice shimmery effects. And then the delays, and they're different. You get digital, analog, tape, reel, Dyna, Galaxy, mod, tri-mod, and mod invert. And then for delay A, and it's Chinese, so they go from right to left rather than left to right. That's why. Digital, analog, tape, echo, liquid, rainbow, crystal, low bit, and fuzzy. So there are loads and loads and loads and loads of different combinations, and they're all, what you get is displayed on the pack. And then you've got things like feedback. There we go. You can see you got shimmer, decay, tone, reverb mix, feedback B, time B, tone B, delay mix B, feedback A, time A, tone A, and delay mix A. and they've all got specific settings, and there are 24 different presets on it. 3 sets of 8, that's 24, isn't it? Yes, it is. Some of them are factory presets, so I won't have to change those, but that's kind of going to be a week's job, I think. So I'm just working up the enthusiasm, which at the moment is pretty much non-existent, to do the hard donkey work slogging of just physically copying the stuff from one set to the other. But yeah, so there we go. That's kind of where I'm at this very weird Sunday evening, 2 weeks before February album writing month kicks off once again. Dazed and Confused says, no worries, you got your priorities right. That's an amazing pedal. I'm super jealous. They are, apart from the reliability issues, which I have to say, I know several other people who've got them, and one of them had to send his back to China to have it fixed. Luckily, his was under warranty. That one isn't. And another mate of mine has 2. And the button that lets you change the presets has stopped working on one of his. So Riaka Music has asked a favour, which I am very, very happy to grant. Riaka Music says, will you mention my Metropolis watch party? Oh, hell yeah. In fact, I'll do more than mention it. So basically, if you don't know Riaka Music, Mel has been spending the last 3 months, is it, Mel? A hell of a lot of work. She got hold of a copy of the Fritz Lang 1927 classic science fiction movie. If you've never seen it, you need to see it, because it's, I mean, apart from anything else, C-3PO's grandmother is in it. So it's the story of Freda and Maria, 2 people from very, very different sides of the tracks. And saying anything more than that would spoil it. But it was a silent movie, and various people have tried to do a modern score for it. When it was made in 1927, there was actually a score for it, and it was performed live with a full studio orchestra in the pit in the cinemas where it was shown. Riaka says started April, late March. So Mel has been doing this for 8 months, and it's come to fruition. She's finished it, and what that means is that she's hosting a watch party on Facebook, but also on Twitch. Riaka Music on Twitch. So it's this Tuesday, the 19th of January at 8 p.m. GMT. Is it 8 p.m. GMT? It's 8 p.m. GMT. So it's 7 p.m. GMT. 7 p.m. Universal Coordinated Time. 8 p.m. Europe. I think that's right, Mel, yeah? And she's doing it on Tuesday. She'll be playing the whole movie on Twitch with her score. And she'll be doing it again on Saturday, the 23rd of January as well. So tune in, be there or be squared. So it's 7 p.m. British time, 8 p.m. Europe. Dazed and Confused says, I don't have Facebook, so even better. Yep. You will probably, I have to say, you would probably get a better picture quality on Twitch anyway, because Facebook does tend to be a bit skeevy in terms of how generous it is with bandwidth to people using it for video streaming. But yeah, so that's Mel's event next Tuesday, and I will be back on Thursday with my regular Thursday night show. Hopefully I will have a whole bunch more bits of music to share with you. I may have done a few bits and pieces more to the second track that I played you, but I think the track that I've done for Iron, I think, is done. I'm not going to touch that because I think that has to stay in the state that it's in today, because that's kind of in and of itself. It's not one of my usual pieces of music, and I want to keep it that way. So I will be back at 19:30 UTC, 19:30 Greenwich Mean Time, 19:30 London Time, 20:30 European Time, and that's 2:30 Eastern, and other time zones are available. But for tonight, I will bid you a good night. I hope wherever you are that you manage to stay safe, that you manage to stay well, that you manage to stay sane. And for some reason, a couple of weeks ago, I combined those in a complete head fit and just wished everybody that they could stay Wayne. And so I will say, stay Wayne. And whatever you're doing, wear a damn mask. I will also mention, because Wobby's just said, see you tomorrow. Wobby, if you are doing something on, or if you do have access to Facebook, and Wobby, are you doing it on Twitch and YouTube as well, or is it just Facebook? Is doing a kind of winter warmer, Drive Away the Blue Monday Blues show on Facebook tomorrow. No, it's just Facebook this time. Okay. So check out Wobby's Facebook event tomorrow if you are on Facebook. And if you need details, just ping me or ping Wobby. And thank you all for hanging out. It's been lovely to see you. It's been lovely to see some familiar names in a rather different context. And Rock Lauer, thank you very much for following me. That is much appreciated. And as always with new followers, I will make sure that I follow you back as soon as this stream has finished. And stay tuned. There will be more guitars. Believe me, there will be more guitars. I have some guitar tales to share with you, sir. But for the rest of you, for all of you, wear a damn mask if you're going out. This new B117 variant of COVID-19 is between 40 and 80% more contagious than the previous versions of the disease, and it spreads very effectively through aerosols, which the other versions did not. So wearing a mask is not only a great way of reducing your own risk of catching it, it's also a very good way of reducing the risk of other people if they might catch it off you if you've got it and you don't know it, because these are weird times. They really are. Dazed and Confused says, yeah, that's super scary, as if it wasn't already scary enough indeed. So take care, my friends, and please look after yourselves. Please be well. Please look after each other, because as sadly we discovered this week, sometimes you don't know how much time you've got left. So whatever time you have, please devote it to reducing the amount of suck in this world. And that's kind of my mission in life these days, which is why I do these. So I hope you'll join me and help me reduce the level of suck on Thursday. I'll be back again next Sunday at 9 p.m. GMT, and it will only be 8 days until FAWM, and we can all go nuts. So that's me done. Have a good one, folks, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.